Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another exciting podcast interview. Man, I've been waiting for this day to get Henry on the podcast to talk about a breakthrough product, a new study in automotive retail to eliminate one of the biggest hassles that dealers face, and that is getting consumers to pick up their outbound phone call. On today's show, I have Henry Haytner. He's the Senior Director and Product Manager at TransUnion. Henry, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm really happy to be here, and I am just as excited as you to have this conversation.
Well, for dealers who follow me via my LinkedIn newsletter, and we have tens of thousands of dealers who received that newsletter when I press publish. The last two articles that I've written have focused around what dealers might quickly call as caller ID, but it's really much bigger than that. Let me set the stage. Most consumers who go to a dealer today, if they want any information, still they're filling out forms. And yet, whether it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or a half hour later, most dealers have their BDC or sales team call that consumer back. For the vast majority of dealers, that phone call comes in on the consumer's mobile phone as unknown caller, and the game of cat and mouse continues. Pew Research says effectively that 2/3 of consumers will not pick up a phone call from some number that they don't recognize. So the BDC or salesperson is now leaving a message on the phone. Someone has to take the time to listen to the voicemail, recognize that dealer was actually responding to something that they wanted. And, well, friction, waste of time, misconnected communication happens. So, Henry, why has it been so difficult to come up with a technical solution supported by all the major carriers that would allow for these outbound numbers from dealers to be registered, identified, and now, as we're going to see with this new product, even show their logo?
Sure, that's a great question, and so I think there's two things that need to be understood that happened kind of in the same time frames that really drove this obstacle. So the first thing is that the mobile devices became able to display caller ID. And the first instinct of the carriers was to treat it like caller ID on landlines back in the 80s and 90s. Those of you that remember or are old enough to remember the little white box that you plugged in line.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, so you paid for that, right? You paid, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7 a month for that service, for that caller name to be displayed on your residential phone. And there was an initial thought that the carriers would be able to monetize the consumer side of it that way, that people would sign up to pay for that. So let's pause that concept for a moment, right? As the carriers were trying to go to market with this subscription-based caller ID service, something else happened. That something else that happened was a lot of telephone calls transitioned to the internet. It became very easy for automated systems to start pumping out thousands and then millions and then hundreds of millions and then billions of robocalls, right? Which flooded consumers and created this massive amount of frustration and distrust and annoyance at the inbound calls, right? So you have a tool that could have maybe helped people identify the calls that they wanted to get, but at the same time, you had this surge of unwanted calls, and those two things just created this big obstacle. So to fast forward a little bit to the solution, what you really needed was a way for to shift the burden, right? To shift the expense of displaying a name to the business that's sending the name, because now they're the ones that are getting value because they're getting their phone calls answered, and to do it in a way that's optimized for the mobile phone, since most people are receiving calls on their mobile phones. So enter TransUnion, enter previously known as New Star. The technology that we worked out with our mobile operator and our mobile operator partners and our enterprise partners to basically send that branding information along with the call, so that when a call from a business terminates to a mobile phone, we're able to display not just a caller name, but a mobile optimized caller name. And to your point, coming soon, logos, call reasons, things like that, which will create even more context for the consumer to answer the phone.
One of the things that I did before agreeing to organize this rollout pilot and measurement study for automotive retail was the feedback I got from some of the dealer customers. It seems that some phone switches can push out some type of caller ID name. One BDC manager said, hey, when I turned on this caller ID product, my calls started getting marked as spam or telemarketing or possible spam. I heard all these horror stories. So the Trusted Call Solutions research project that I am managing in conjunction with TransUnion is not just the branded call display, which is going to be amazing, but also making sure these outbound numbers don't get flagged as spam, don't get flagged as possible spam or telemarketer. And that seems to be a big headache with dealer groups. Could you help me understand? Is it because the BDC makes too many calls from one phone number? What gets dealers in trouble when they're really just calling customers?
Sure. The reasons kind of vary depending on the use case. The first thing is, it could just be overall volume, right? If there's a lot of calls being made, sometimes this will trigger, the analytics platforms that the mobile operators put in their network to combat robocalls initially, right? These analytics platforms that generate those tags of, spam risk or scam likely or spam likely, depending on, which mobile operator it's on. Those are a reaction to all of these robocalls. So they're volume sensitive, but they're also sensitive to consumer feedback. So, sometimes consumers can be unpredictable in terms of the feedback that they'll give. If they put in maybe somebody's shopping for a car and they put in their spouse's number, or maybe there's a wrong number, they give the wrong number, and if the consumer that receives a call reports that call as being a telemarketing call or a spam call through the app, right, through their app, a lot of the analytics platforms, or at least a couple of them, are very sensitive to that consumer feedback. And they kind of have like a 3 strikes policy where, 1 complaint, you're okay, 2 complaints, you're on notice, and the 3rd complaint, they'll tag your calls as spam. And until you have some kind of process to remediate that, your calls will stay tagged as spam. So part of the Trusted Call Solutions platform is another product called Caller Name Optimization, and it does 2 things. The first thing is we go and register the name, the calling name, and the number with those analytics platforms directly, so that, one, they can avoid getting tagged, right? We register it. We register the type of call campaigns that come from that number, and that reduces the likelihood that those numbers will get tagged. And it also creates a fast track for resolution if the numbers do get retagged, right? They'll tell us why they tagged it and give us some coaching to give back to the BDC on why they might, what behaviors, what call behaviors they might want to change. The other thing that it does is it covers that other 20% of the outbound calls, which is the calls to landline. So in the calls to landline numbers, the display of calling name can be a little bit inconsistent depending on what the landline is. I mean, is it a number that the person gets from their cable company? Is it a number that the company that somebody gets from their local exchange carrier? Depending on what it is, the name that shows up might be different. And what caller name optimization does is exactly what it says. It gives the business the ability to sort of correct the record and send the calling name that they want to all of the landline numbers as well. So between caller name optimization and branded call display, it gives the business an opportunity to have a consistent branded experience across landline and mobile and avoid that negative reputation and tagging that comes from different types of call behaviors.
And the results are pretty amazing. In my LinkedIn newsletter that I published, the first one, it noted some other industries. Financial lender, 34% improvement. Insurance provider, 34% improvement. National retailer, 65% improvement. This is in answer rates. Opinion and surveys, 56%. Rideshare, 30%. The way I'm estimating it for automotive retail, I think we're going to be easily in that 50 to 65% because of every testing that I'm doing. The outbound phone call is unknown and it's disconnected from an immediate anticipated event, meaning, if you hang up and told Delta that you're willing to be called back, when you see that 800 number, you're like, oh, that must be the Delta call, but a dealer who's just popping up some general number, no way the consumer is saying, oh yeah, I submitted a form a half hour ago. Yeah, this has to be the dealer. So the pickup rates are going to be amazing. And then, of course, the fact that the call center managers don't have to worry or manually check if their phone lines are being flagged, I think that's a huge time savers. Is there any way to understand the cost or like the pickup rate, Henry? Like if you have a normal pickup rate and then that number gets flagged as potential spam, is there any studies on what that drop off could look like?
There certainly are, and I hesitate to quote them specifically because I don't think that I had the stats in front of me, but I remember reading that it's somewhere around a 70 or 70 to 80% drop off on answer rate if the number gets tagged negatively, right? As if it gets tagged as spam likely or spam risk or something like that. The interesting thing about it is that the improvements that you'll see from deploying having a not just untagged but a branded experience when the call comes in is I think exactly what you mentioned is important, right? Which is that if the consumer is expecting a call, maybe not right away, right, where it's a callback, they were in queue for a Delta baggage service and now they they're getting a call back or something like that. But I think about how I shopped for my last car, right? My wife wanted a very specific type of vehicle. She wanted a specific color. And with the shortages, right, with the shortages of inventory, I couldn't have any real dealer loyalty, right? I had to look for the vehicle that I wanted. And so that meant looking within a 500-mile radius of my house. And I don't know all the dealerships there, but I did find the vehicle or a similar vehicle on a couple different places and put in my information. But I don't know the area codes for every location within 500 miles. So I got calls back from those dealers maybe an hour later, maybe 2 hours later, as the deal worked its way through the online sales department and a rep got assigned. But I missed every single one of those calls. And then I had to try and figure out a time to call back, and maybe the rep is busy and they're with a customer. So then you get into this game of tag. And I think that being able to pull that context through, and then not just necessarily the answer rate, but be able to measure the impact on conversion, right, of those outbound call attempts is really where we're going to probably see the magic.
Right. And I want dealers to go into my LinkedIn newsletter and pull up the article on October 23rd. It says dealership leaders need to rethink outbound calling strategies. And in this article, I put together a visual, which when you understand that you're registering a number with the Trusted Call Solutions platform, And that number could have a context calling about. This means that dealers could have a dedicated number for calling Auto Trader leads, Cars.com leads, Car Gurus leads, could have a dedicated line for recalls, the body shop, a service line, so that when the caller ID comes up, it will show Pash Ford, and then it can say calling about, and it could be Car Guru's vehicle, or it could be urgent recall. The context is so important. And what I wrote about is that now that this product exists, dealers can even supercharge their pickup rates with these contextual tags if, this is the key, if their phone switch and CRM was working together. And that's why I wrote this article as a call out to the CRM companies that the branded call display with contextual message, calling about Car Guru's vehicle, calling about appointment reminder, calling about urgent recall. Think about the time that is wasted when a car is up on the lift trying to communicate with a customer, get approval for a repair. Again, context. You can say, well, Brian, we text people. Again, texting. There's nothing wrong with texting, but explaining a complex repair or something that was discovered may be difficult. Phones are an absolute way to build that trust. And this branded call display with context coming in 2024 is going to be amazing. Now, one of the things that dealers ask me, is how do you package? We're not going to talk about price, but the overall cost to the dealership would seem to me be based on volume, right? Because you're having to pay the different carriers to support these messages. So is it volume and lines as a general rule? How would you describe the how dealers should be thinking about when they request a proposal?
Yeah, so great question, and generally speaking, that's absolutely correct, right? So we have, for every telephone number that we register, there's a cost associated with that to us, right? So that cost is sort of passed along, and so that's one metric, because one of the things that we have to do is go, verify that we know that number is associated with that business. That not only protects the carriers, but it also protects the businesses, right? It prevents that, we call that the vetting process. And the vetting process actually protects our existing customers as well as prospective customers, because it prevents someone else from registering your phone number, right? So that process is important, where we go through and vet the telephone numbers. And that's why there's a sort of a per line fee that's, kind of a nominal fee. And then when you think about the calls that go out to the devices, we use advertising terminology here, because it's essentially, kind of what you're doing is advertising, right? When you're displaying a logo and the name of your dealership and even context for the discussion, we use the term impression, right? And so the charging principle is we charge a per impression fee, and an impression only counts if it actually gets pushed down to the mobile device. So, it's not necessarily all the outbound calls you make, because if somebody's got their phone switched off and it goes right to voicemail, or you make a call out to a landline number or something like that, where we cannot deliver an impression, right, then we don't charge for that. So it's really only the amount of times that your name or logo or whatever content, is supported at the time gets displayed that creates a chargeable event.
Well, that makes sense. And obviously, dealers who look at this as a group or an infrastructure cost save money, on volume. The key here is that every department of the dealership benefits from the branded call display and the caller name optimization. They don't have to worry about, hey, if one agent is making 300 or 400 outbound calls a day from their line, that they're going to get flagged. They don't have to worry about, hey, our central BDC makes thousands of outbound calls. Man, if we get flagged just for one day as spam, we are totally losing thousands and thousands of dollars. That's why I love this product. And part of the partnership with the Pash Group and TransUnion is to bring the case study data to educate the automotive industry. We have case studies now in other industries. It's not that the product isn't working, it's just that automotive has been slow to get this product up. So, Henry, in your mind, is there any reason why this platform wouldn't work in automotive? If a dealer signs up for the caller name optimization, you register, hey, this is a local business, this is where they live, this is the type of call volume they do, so expect it. Here's their logo and such. Is there any reason if a dealer was somewhat suspicious, I don't think caller ID is going to work or can work, is there any reason why they should be suspicious, or is this just a stable product just now coming into automotive?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I mean, there's certainly been enough confusion in the market because of the things that I referred to earlier, right? Between, robocalls and the initial attempt to deploy caller ID by the carriers, and then some initial go-to-market strategies that were taken where there were other types of business enablers that were reselling similarly function types of solutions. But they weren't this this sort of tighter ecosystem that's been developed over the last 24 months, and it's been really ramping up to scale in the last 18 to 24 months, where we have full coverage over all three of the major mobile operators, and that includes all their MVNO properties, right? So your Spectrum mobiles and your Xfinity mobiles and your Metro PCS and your Boost. Those folks are covered too because they fall under the big three, the AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile.
Hold on, Henry, you used another acronym, NVO. Come on, help us. I mean, you telco guys are going to drive us a little crazy. What's an NVO?
Yeah, sorry about that. So an MVNO is really just it's a complicated name. It stands for Mobile Virtual Network Operator, but what it really means is like a brand partner, right? So T-Mobile has two brands. They have T-Mobile and they have Metro PCS. And those brands target different demographics, but they are ultimately the same service enabled by the same network. Similar AT&T and Cricket. And then each of the big cable operators like Spectrum and Comcast, they have their own mobile play to sell to their subscribers, and those basically ride either the AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile networks as well. So basically, when I say an MVNO, I really mean a brand partner, like a Metro PCS or Boost or Spectrum or Xfinity.
Got it. And I learned something new. I didn't know how those companies were connected, but that makes sense. So let's set the context for the BDC managers, the sales managers, the dealer principals, the chief technical officers. We're talking about solving a core problem in automotive retail, that we do make outbound calls when somebody visits our website and fills out a form, and 2/3 of those people are not picking up that phone call because they don't know it's you. They don't know the context of the call. We are calling people for declined service. We're calling people for recalls. Our technicians are waiting for customer approval, and yet all our numbers are coming up as unknown caller. This is scalable, reliable, and durable. And more importantly, I'm very excited to work with the team at TransUnion to coordinate the rollout in automotive retail and documenting the lift. Now, for some dealers, their telephony switch actually records how many outbound calls a day they're making and how many connections. And this is some of the data we're going to be looking at, so that, hey, Brian, today we made, 5,000 outbound dials in our big BDC, and we got, 2,000 people to pick up. I want to see, when this is turned on, what that answer rate pickup is. So dealers who have a little bit more sophisticated or digital or cloud-based phone system will be able to significantly document the lift of engagement, and then they're also going to feel it, right, Henry? I think that for most dealers, their BDC people, when this thing is turned on, it's like, wow, I'm being more productive.
For sure. I mean, I think that the metrics that we should be able to provide will initially give a pretty good amount of feedback, and then that can be cross-referenced with the internal metrics, both from the dialing system, right, from the telephony, operations KPIs that those folks keep track of. But what's more interesting is tracking that through to the business results, right? How many service calls resulted, in an upsell of a package or an additional service, post implementation versus pre implementation. How many deals were closed, on first, after first callback, before and after, right? So connecting the success and answer rate and putting people together to the business results is the piece that I'm frankly the most interested to see. Because, I mean, I can be a geek about technology all I want, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'm here to make money for my company, and I'm here to help my customers make more money for their companies. And so that's what I really am interested to see is, what's the impact to the bottom line, right? Like the KPIs are good and we're going to get a good insight into them, but, having our pilot, study participants, share with us a little bit. I mean, it doesn't need to be specific numbers, but percentages, ratios, things like that will be really the proof of the pudding, I believe.
Well, absolutely. And that's what's exciting me. We don't need to share any confidential data, but we want to see the net lift for a single point store, for a multi-point store, for a small centralized BDC to a large, and really build the business use cases, because at the end of the day, I'm 100% committed to helping dealers improve their retail operations. And with the coming of the Modern Retailing Conference in just a few weeks in Palm Beach, November 12th, 13th, and 14th, this is another example how we're just not taking a tagline, which is elevating the customer experience, and, well, letting the conference go by. We are going to be showcasing solutions to dealers on how they can elevate the customer experience, because now they're going to be able to identify who's calling and the reason for the call to create higher connection rates, better service their customers in a timely manner, and to beat their competition, to those who are shopping online. So for dealers who are interested in the, well, overall strategy of trusted call solutions, there's a few ways in which you can get some more information. Number one, you could reach out to me, and I have a turnkey dealer startup kit. You can just email me, brian@brianpash.com, because specific to automotive, we're going to want you to fill out some information for each store, which is like, for example, outbound call volume, the number of outbound lines. Remember, if you have a different outbound line for service, sales, parts, F&I, maybe the body shop, you're going to want to fill out the form so that you can get a customized proposal for your automotive dealership. If you work in a centralized BDC, again, if you want more information, at the end of the day, you're going to want to know what this platform costs. You should look in your call switch and see how many outbound calls you're making. This just makes the process easier, so you can go to the executive team and saying, TransUnion, in partnership with their New Star division, has really broken the puzzle here wide open for dealers to have this great outbound calling experience. Of course, contacting TransUnion directly is absolutely fine as well. Again, it is called their Trusted Call Solutions platform. Henry, is that a good option for dealers? Either be part of this kind of managed automotive study or just reach out to TransUnion direct?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, in terms of people that are trying to understand the value and the impact to their business, certainly the study is going to be, I feel like, Brian, you guys have a really good voice of the customer approach, right? So when you go through that study, it's going to, certainly highlight the things that dealers care the most about. Coming directly to us, obviously, we'll give a lot of information on the product and how to implement it, and put you in touch with, someone from the appropriate vertical that can walk through the use cases. So either one of those are viable. I think the people that are, the most excited and want to get in early, I think, participating in the study is probably going to be the best approach, or that's at least the approach I would take if I was the decision maker.
Yeah, because what I'm trying to do is not just make sure the product gets implemented, that's stage one, but I really want to work with some of the key dealers who want to see the call contextual message customized based on purpose. And I've already reached out to two of the CRM companies to ask them about building into this feature to work with the phone switch providers to be able to say, hey, this is a new lead from AutoTrader. When I click that call to call the customer in the CRM, it provides me a drop down, and the customer clicks, AutoTrader outbound line, knowing that that call is going to say AutoTrader vehicle inquiry. I mean, I think that's so cool, Henry, right? To be able to get the CRM companies and the phone switch companies to recognize this, branded call display with contextual notes to really have automotive actually be a leader in how to use this technology.
For sure. I think it's going to be a really exciting time. I think being able to be in a focus group that's really designed to bring out what this can do for the automotive dealerships and for their different use cases, it's going to be great. And I think the customers ultimately, what you really want is you want to have, happy consumers. And I know it's tough to build brand loyalty these days, right? Especially, given the way that people shop. But I think these are the kinds of small things and personal touches that you can deploy that help you differentiate from your competitors and help you create that personal touch that does generate that brand loyalty.
Yeah, that is so true. Again, so one more time, dealer groups who are interested in trusted call solutions platform and this project in automotive retail, you can email me, brian@brianpash.com, or just go to pashgroup.com. And you'll see on the menu there under our research, the trusted call solutions endeavor. And our goal here is to document the lift and the business impact that branded call display and caller name optimization has in automotive retail. If this is the first time you are listening to one of my podcasts, you should know there are dozens of interviews with automotive leaders, technology breakthrough companies, and of course, just people who are helping automotive retail improve. And of course, TransUnion has been a partner with dealers for many, many years. And we thank them for being a supporter of dealer education, a sponsor of the Modern Retailing Conference, but more importantly, bringing this platform into automotive retail to fix one of the nagging problems that impacts dealership operations, revenue, and efficiency. So can't wait to host the TransUnion team at the Modern Retailing Conference and talk about this product. Hey, Henry, thanks so much for spending time with us. I really love your insights and experience in this area.
It's really been a pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity, and really looking forward to the conference. And for those of you that are out there listening that have more questions, we'll be there. I'll be participating in a panel, and then I'll be around afterwards. So if you see me and you want to say hi, it's kind of funny, Brian, you've already driven some of my LinkedIn visibility up. I've gotten some, inbound connection requests, and, people looking forward to seeing me at MRC. So really, really happy to participate and, be as much help and a source of answers and advice where I can give them.
Great. Well, that's what dealers are looking for when they come out to our conferences. They're looking for new ideas, new technologies, new processes and solutions to help them keep their competitive edge. And this Trusted Call Solutions platform is going to do that. I want to thank everyone for their time, whether you're riding into work or just taking a break for your personal education. Thanks for listening. Thanks for trusting us to bring great information to you. And I'll catch you next time on another podcast interview.